Mosley, the studio manager of the Iowa Ceramic Center and Glass Studio. We're a nonprofit serving the Cedar Rapids area for over 40 years. We're a place where community and creativity meet, and today I'll be throwing a cup. So I'm going to show you guys how to throw a cup here. So I'm going to try to get it as centered as possible when I throw on the wheel head. See, I got it close, but it's still pretty wobbly. So to center it up here, bring my hands nice and wet and lean on it with my left palm here. I'm using a lot of my palm on top, and with my right hand, I'm using a lot of pinky and ring finger. So with my left hand, I'm pushing everything down, and it's splaying out. With my right hand, I'm collecting that all back together, making it taller. So when you push the two together, you get a nice kind of hockey puck proportion piece. Another trick to get it on center is called coning. So you're going to squeeze it all the way up, and then push it back down. I'll take it 1 or 2 times, generally, to get that on center. And so I want to avoid any bumps or anything too bumpy on the top of that. So I've got this nice center piece for me to start developing the opening here. And to do that, I like to take my thumb and my index finger and slowly push down. And as I'm doing that, I'm exposing some fresh clay. So I want to make sure I get my hands back in the water there. And then continue pushing down, careful not to push all the way through. And to check that, you take your barbecue skewer and just poke the bottom, grab it, and then I got about 1/4 inch or so, maybe a little bit more, but that's about where I want to be shooting for it. So once I get that going, I've just made a hole, so I want to close that back. So I'll push that down with my middle finger a little bit. The next step is going to be widening the base. Widening is important because it's going to set up kind of the profile of the piece. If it's too narrow to begin with, you're going to have a real narrow foot on your piece. If it's real wide, you can have more of like a Stein shape. So on this, I'm going to kind of find the middle zone on that. And to do that, I've got my thumb on the outside, kind of like a fence, and my middle finger is slowly pinching, bringing everything wider. And when I do that, I create a lot of little throwing lines on the inside. So to get rid of that, I'll take my wooden rib tool, and it's got this nice 90-degree angle for me here. I'll drop that in. And that collects any little scrappy bits that are on there. I'll just remove those, put them right in the bucket. It also compresses the bottom really well, so I don't have any cracks when it's coming out of the kiln. So I'm going to slowly just keep pushing that and working on the base until it's something I'm really satisfied with. And have no lumps or bumps. Take a little bit more off. That should do pretty well. The next thing you're going to do is pull the walls. So to do that, right now my lip's a little sharp, so I want to just compress that real quick before I get moving any further. And get my hands nice and wet again. There's a couple different ways to pull the walls. Some people will reach over the top and pull this way. Some people just fingertip it on the side. I found you get a little more power if you do a knuckle pull, so I do a thumbs up and wrap my index finger around it. And to get underneath it, and then with my left hand, I'm using my middle finger and my ring finger, and I'm just squeezing between the two, and my index finger on my left hand is also kind of acting as a fulcrum here, as a pivot point on everything. And I'll slowly bring that up to the top. If you look, I got all these little scrappy bits here. So I'm going to take my sponge and just collect all those guys and compress my lip just a little bit before I go any further. So after that first pull, I pulled a lot of that clay from the bottom up to this kind of top 2/3 here. So a lot of that weight in the clay is still around this bottom third. So my next couple pulls, I want to really focus just on this bottom part. That being said, I'm not going to stop when I get to this bottom third. I'm going to follow through on the whole pull. So on that, I like to create a nice little bead to get underneath. So I've got this nice little shelf for my knuckle to get underneath. And I'll just ride that all the way to the top. You can see all that clay just moving all the way to the top there. So that was a pretty good pull. I still got a little bit of clay right in here, so this next one I'm just going to try to get just that bottom bit. And for this, I'm still doing the knuckle pull, but I'm not giving it quite as much force. I'm really making sure I get that base there. Pull that out. You can see my hands are always connected there. I don't have both hands independently doing this. My knee or my elbows are always anchored onto my legs pretty well. So the next thing I like to do is, before I get into the shaping here, is I'll clean up all these throwing lines you can see, all these ridges, and I take that again with this wooden rib here, and I just push it against the side, and I start to clean up all these little bits on the base, and that makes it look even taller than it is too. Then I'll come in with my left hand on the inside, and just leave the rib where it's at, and I'll take all the high and low points, and push everything onto the same plane there, Again, just removing all that extra clay, that wooden rib. Compressing the rim one more time here just to make sure it's nice and tight for me. All on the same level. It's a little wobbly, so I'm going to take my skewer again and just cut that so it's nice and flush. I'll take that ring and just throw it off the side. And now I've got a nice, clean, even lip for me to work with. I like to just give it a little bit of water. Then I'll take my wooden rib one more time. And give it just like about a 45-degree angle. Nothing, I'm certainly not measuring, but something nice for your lips to use. There, I like to get everything out of a nice, just a quick sponge out so you don't have a pool in the bottom of your cup. And then also, just clean up any little clay boogers you have on your lips there. So that'll be a quick cup there. Before I cut off the wheel, one thing I like to do too is just get underneath it there. And I'll do a little undercut. That'll make it a little bit easier to pull off the wheel later. And also kind of lifts it off the wheel head to create a little bit of shadow. All right, so there's the cut. Last thing to do is just cut off the wheel. So I like to cut them in half just to check my work here. So a little chunky on the bottom there. But I'll clean that up in trimming, and we'll show you guys some trimming here in the next video. Thanks for watching me throw today. Feel free to stop by the Iowa Ceramic Center anytime.